Hi guys, Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and welcome back to another top 5. Today we're going to be talking about inclusions in polymer clay, mainly ones that can colour your clay. So we're going to be covering things such as spices, we're going to be covering some things like sand, crayons, things like that. I'll go more in detail in the tutorial about what we're going to be including, but yeah, that's basically what we're going to be covering today. So on to the first tip. Okay, so the first colorant that we're going to be talking about is spices. Now technically that's more than one, but I'm pulling them all together because there's just so many that you can use. Right now I'm busy demonstrating coffee, paprika, pepper and turmeric, but there are lots of others that you can use, such as cinnamon comes to the top of my mind. Oh gosh, there's lots. You could use herbs as well if you wanted to get kind of a speckled green effect. There's lots of different spices, so just go and have a look at the spice section or just check your cupboard as well and see what kind of spices you have. So I've turned it into a Skinner blend of sorts, and then I am going to be making a bowl out of it. I've also added little bits of white just to give the Skinner blend a little bit of nuance, but you don't have to do that. Also, just a quick thing, I am using translucent clay for all of the inclusions today. You can use other colours, but the translucent is the one that works the best. So that's spices. Personally, it is my favourite inclusion just because there's a lot of variety and just because I think it looks the best. But there are other inclusions that work quite well as well. So let's move on to tip 2. Okay, so the next colorant that we're going to be talking about, technically I'm grouping two together as well, but they're both technically the same thing, and that is dirt and sand. Now depending on where you live, the dirt is going to look very different. Sand should look mostly the same, but it also works very well. The dirt is going to come up with a really dark colour, and the sand is just going to kind of give you a mottled grainy effect. Again, I'm using translucent, but you can use other colours as well. Something I also want to point out with all of these colorants, you're going to be getting blocks in the clay. I covered that in an article and I will have it linked in the description below this video, but basically it means that your translucent is going to have a lot of things that kind of look like air bubbles. They're not quite air bubbles, but they're going to affect the translucency of your clay. You'll be able to see those in the pictures that I provide, but it will affect your clay in that way. But I kind of like it, it adds to the effect. So anyway, that is dirt and sand. Both work really well as inclusions and colorants. On to colorant number 3. Okay, so the next one is a favourite, and I have actually used this one before, and that is crayons. Now keep in mind that it will weep when baked because the crayon's going to melt a little bit, but the crayon that's trapped inside of the clay will be perfectly fine. You will want to seal this one just because you're going to have crayon just sitting on the surface of the clay, so make sure that you seal it with something like a varnish or a resin. But it should come out with a really interesting effect, and this one is a little more versatile than the other colorants I've talked about because you can use any colour of crayon that you want, and you'll end up with a different colour, whereas the others are all going to look kind of earthy. But I quite like it. It adds a really interesting effect and is definitely one of my favourites. You can also use pencils. I haven't shown that in this video today, but you can definitely use pencil shavings as well. That will also come out with an interesting look. Alright, so this one we probably all know about, and it's very similar to mica powder, but you might not know that you can actually use the eyeshadow in your makeup kits. So go and rate whatever makeup you might have. There's lots of different types that you can use on your clay. Today I'm using eyeshadow, but there are pastes and things that you can use. The pastes you want to test a little bit because some of them can react with the polymer clay, but the eyeshadow, so long as it's a powder, will be perfectly fine with the polymer clay. And as you can see, it gives a really nice strong colour. You don't necessarily need to buy Polymer clay specific mica powders. Eyeshadow works really well as a budget version. Okay, and this last one might be a little bit of a controversial choice, but most of us have it in our clay anyway because we all have a little furry friend running around, or at least most of us, I would assume. And so the next colorant on the list is actually cat or dog fur. I would only recommend this if you're making a piece for yourself. I definitely wouldn't recommend selling this, but it does add a personal use to your polymer clay pieces if you are choosing to wear it yourself. And it actually does come out with an interesting look. It looks like those pieces of paper that have the inclusions in them. So if you gave it a texture, it could really come out looking nice. Again, I would use this only for pieces that you make yourself, but as you can see, it does end up with a pretty interesting use, and it's a great way to include your little furry friend in with your projects. And that is basically it for all the tips. Now, I didn't cover everything that you could possibly put into polymer clay. There's just way too much to cover. So if you have suggestions that I didn't cover in today's tutorial, please do leave them in the comments below. I always look forward to reading your suggestions. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.